We begin this episode by acknowledging the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which we record and share these stories. We pay our deepest respects to their elders, past and present, and recognise the wisdom, connection, and culture that have shaped these lands for thousands of years. As we journey beyond the veil, we do so with gratitude, respect, and an awareness of those who walked before us, honouring their wisdom, their connection to the land, and their stories woven into the fabric of time. May we listen, learn, and tread lightly, carrying forward their legacy with integrity and heart. Welcome to Beyond the Veil Australia, where history, mystery, and the unexplained collide. From eerie encounters to cryptid lore, from channeled messages to scientific investigations, we're lifting the veil and stepping into the unknown. I'm Heather, your guide through the shadows, and together we'll unravel paranormal phenomena, strange synchronicities, and the mysteries that refuse to be ignored. Whether you're a skeptic, a seeker, or somewhere in between, this space is for you. Fasten your seatbelt, expand your thinking, and get ready to cross the threshold with Beyond the Veil Australia podcast. There are places in this world where the air feels heavier, where shadows linger just a little too long, and where doors remain sealed. Not to keep people out, but to keep something in. In today's episode, we're stepping into the realm of the forbidden, exploring haunted locations where legends warn, don't go in there. From abandoned asylums with tragic pasts to ancient ruins where the spirits are said to roam, these places hold secrets that defy explanation. And then there's the mystery of locked doors, those ominous barriers in haunted locations that no one dares open. What's hiding behind them? And why do some say that once opened, they can never be closed again? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Australia podcast. For those that are new here, I'm Heather, I'm your host, and today we're going to be delving into part 1 of haunted locations. So this is going to be a fun one. I know at the end of the part 3 episode of ley lines, I'd sort of thrown it out there and put a poll on my stories on Instagram with a couple of options of topics that are pretty much ready to go to be recorded. And I couldn't decide between the 3 of them because I could see how much fun I was going to have recording these and sharing them with you. So these 3 topics were ready to go. And I just was like, guys, help me choose, because, you know, like I've had a lot of positive interaction with certain posts that I've put up that are sort of talking more about locations that are potentially haunted, or you know, what the intersectionality is between ley lines or UFOs or whatever. So yeah, it was really hard there for a while, because at one point it was literally a 3-way tie in my social medias, and I'm like, oh, holy fuck, guys, can someone just vote an extra one or something, just so that we can choose a topic to move forward with? And we have. So the 50% of the vote went to the haunted locations, 25% went to witchcraft, and 25% went to tools of the trade. So again, once I finish this 3-parter, because haunted locations, let's be honest, there's a lot around the world, and some of what we're touching on tonight or even through this 3-part series, I think they're going to be ones where, depending on what location you want to hear about, it might be that I do an episode on a specific location at some point down the line as well. So, whatever you guys are interested in moving forward, I'm happy to look into doing. At the moment, I've still got quite a few topics that I'd really like to get through. And I think initially I really wanted to kind of have a topic and then do something else and then have another topic and do something else. But it hasn't quite panned out that way. And that's not a bad thing. I've found that I've actually really enjoyed really deep diving down the rabbit hole into these topics. I've always had such a strong curiosity and a pull to deep dive and research things anyway. When I was studying in the last couple of years, I had an educator say to me, and it was a unit that I was studying, which was about advocacy. And this educator said to me, "Oh my God, Heather, you couldn't necessarily find that the first time, but holy Jesus, you still kept looking. And when you found it, and you kept going." So apparently I've got a really great ability for researching things and going down the rabbit hole. I would put that down probably to, first of all, being a Cancer. I'm a very empathic, nurturing, like full-on sensitive emotion person who takes on everyone's emotions, even when it's not good for me. And then I've also got the double whammy of a personality, group, I suppose, of actually it's the nickname of it was called Advocate, but it's actually an INFJ. So, having the sensitive Cancer star sign and an INFJ personality, it explains a lot. I just thought I was broken with mental health, but maybe there's more to it. So, there you go. So there's a little bit of a rundown of sort of where I've been with the podcast. It's been tricky recently because I am literally moving into the new house with my family next week. So I wanted to try and get some episodes recorded so that I could sort of have them releasing during that time, so I wasn't leaving you guys hanging for more. So hence why there was a poll up that said, which one do you guys want? Because I really want to make sure that people are enjoying what I'm sharing, and if there's any topics or any particular things that people want to hear about, that you're able to hear that on the podcast as well. So there's a lot coming up for me over the next probably 6 months between the podcast and other opportunities that have come up. So I know I've had a few people reach out that are kind of like, hey, should we do a collaboration? And I'm like, yeah, I'm totally up for discussing that. But I'm just literally in the depths of trying to move house at the moment. So let's touch base in about a month once I'm in and settled and everything. So and I have to say, there's collaborations obviously with Aussie people, but there's so many of you from the US that are like really interested in what I do, and I'm just like, dude, you live all the way in the US and you want to listen to me? Like, I'm just some boring weirdo that's got probably a lot of mental health problems and has weird psychic and empathic abilities and is just kind of like a bit of a freak of nature. So truly humbled and almost sort of shocked that people have really reacted positively to the podcast. So you guys are all amazing. Truly, thank you. I really didn't think this was going to take off like it has. I kind of thought, oh, I'll have a go and I'll just see what happens. But the reactions from everybody have been so amazing, and the amount of people that I've been able to connect with throughout this journey is honestly so cool and so amazing. And I feel like I'm making so many true friends in this space because I feel like I'm in an area where people just get me and I get them, and it's like a whole new level of being able to connect with people. And I had a background in hairdressing and retail and hospitality and now community services, so I'm not shy in terms of being able to connect with people, but I will say the connections that I've made thus far with people within this area or this field, whether it be podcasting or primarily in the paranormal area, has just been truly phenomenal. So, yeah, thank you all again for listening, or viewing if you're viewing on YouTube, and engaging so much with the social media and things like that too. It is truly appreciated, and I just wanted to let you all know that I love being able to engage with you when I see you, but I'm sorry I'm a little bit distracted with trying to move house. So, yeah, please don't think that I'm ignoring you. I'll be trying to do 10 things at once, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what I've got to do. I've got to reply to this message, and I just get a bit lost. So if I don't respond straight away, I'm so sorry. Don't think I've forgotten you. I haven't. It's just I get distracted and there's a million things going on. So yeah, I just wanted to put that little shout out in at the beginning of this episode, just as a little bit of a thank you, a little bit of an insight into me a bit more and sort of what's happening with the podcast and all of the above. So, yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the Oh My God, Don't Go In There Part 1 episode. So segment 1, the world's most haunted locations and their stories. Let's begin our journey with some of the most infamous paranormal hotspots across the world. Places where ghost sightings, eerie encounters, and unexplained phenomena have been documented for centuries. Edinburgh Vaults, Scotland's underground haunting. Beneath the streets of Edinburgh lies a labyrinth of vaults, once used for storage, workshops, and even illicit activities. But today, they are known for something far more sinister. Ghostly apparitions, disembodied voices, and the lingering presence of something unseen. Visitors report sudden temperature drops, shadowy figures darting between archways, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Some say the spirits of those who suffered in the vaults, criminals, plague victims, and lost souls, still linger, unable to escape. Wow, that one's kind of interesting. I've known a little bit about the Edinburgh Vaults. I've seen a couple of, I don't know if they were like documentaries or paranormal teams or a combination of both, but holy shit, man. Ugh, they were a little bit creepy, to be honest. But yeah, and just to throw it out there, and I don't think I've actually got this one listed. And just bear in mind, there's quite a few locations that I'm just like, holy fuck, this shit is insane, that aren't listed in this one. I've tried to kind of get some of the ones that are reasonably well known and some of the ones that are not so well known, to mix it up. But just to, slightly diverge off topic for 1 second. I went to the US back in January 2009 and loved it. And I remember, weirdly, on my final day in the US, we were heading back to the airport to fly home, and it was actually President Obama's inauguration day. And the coolest thing was when we were on this bus, every single person on this bus was silent listening to the inauguration, and holy fuck, it was seriously the most amazing experience, just it's so different in terms of how presidential and prime ministerial elections and that are, that there's some similarities, but there's some differences as well. So yeah, that was really cool. But weirdly enough, we had been to the Seattle Underground, and that, honestly, I was the mere age of 17 at the time too. And we went into the Seattle Underground, and oh my God, it's truly amazing. And holy fuck, guys, the vibes down there were like out of this world. And it was so weird because I kept seeing things and feeling things, but they were like visions rather than an actual apparition. And I didn't think that much of it at the time, but I suppose now that I'm in my mid-30s and I think about some of the experiences I've had, I'm like, fuck, man, maybe you didn't realize how psychic you were and until sort of now, which I heard is quite a common thing for a lot of people. But yeah, just because we were touching on tunnels, I had to sort of throw that in there as well. So maybe that's another particular topic that we could go down where we can throw in a little bit of Heather's experience in the US. But yeah, it was really, it's a really different vibe in tunnels and things like that. And I'm fairly certain there'd be a lot like that around Australia. I know of some that are actually there that are in South Australia, and they're also linked to um, a particular case of children disappearing that occurred in the 60s. And there has been recent updates on that particular case in the media in Australia anyway. So there are tunnels around, but they're definitely not as easy to find in Australia. So yeah, just a little fun fact, but we'll keep on moving because there are a few more that I'd really, really love to sort of jump into. The White Room phenomenon. One of the most infamous chambers in the vaults is known for the White Room. Paranormal investigators have reported intense activity here, sudden temperature drops, shadowy figures, and even physical sensations of being touched. This is from a guest paranormal investigator at the time who said, "During one investigation, I felt a sharp tug on my jacket, as if someone was trying to pull me back. But when I turned around, there was no one there. Moments later, my equipment picked up an unexplained spike in electromagnetic activity." The ghost of Mr. Boots. Then there's Mr. Boots, a tall, shadowy figure known for his heavy footsteps echoing through tunnels. Some visitors claim to see him standing in the darkness, just watching. A tour guide said, "I've led hundreds of tours through these vaults, but one night I heard footsteps behind me when I knew no one was there. The sound grew louder, then suddenly stopped. When I turned around, the entire group was frozen in fear, staring at the empty corridor." Wow, that one's pretty creepy. And they're accounts from the Edinburgh Vault. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. The next one is a fairly infamous one, the Stanley Hotel, the inspiration for The Shining. In Estes Park, Colorado, the Stanley Hotel is infamous for its ghostly residents. This grand hotel inspired Stephen King's The Shining, and for a good reason. Guests have reported hearing phantom piano music, seeing spectral figures in their rooms, and even encountering the ghost of the hotel's founder. One of the most chilling legends involves room 217, where a housekeeper was nearly killed in an explosion in 1911. Since then, guests claim to see her spirit tidying the room, adjusting luggage, and even folding clothes. This was a guest testimonial based on this. "I woke up to find my suitcase zipped shut, even though I had left it open the night before. My clothes were neatly folded on the chair, and the air smelled faintly of lavender, just like an old-fashioned cleaning product." The grand staircase apparition. A ghostly figure has been photographed standing on the staircase, dressed in period clothing. Paranormal investigators believe that this could be the spirit of the hotel's founder. An investigator had said, "We set up motion sensors near the staircase, and at exactly 3:17 a.m, the sensors triggered, yet no one was there. Moments later, we captured a faint silhouette on camera standing at the top of the stairs." That's so fucking creepy. And I just have to say something really funny. The novelist Stephen King, books, my mum absolutely loves his books. She's always read his stuff. And the funny thing is, that's actually my dad's name. It's spelt exactly the same. And it's really funny because I remember looking at books as a kid and seeing like Stephen King on there. And I'd say to Mum, when did Dad write books? Like I just, couldn't quite get it. Mum goes, oh no, it's a different Stephen King. And I was like, but it's spelt the same. No one can have the same name spelt the same. And she'd be like, oh no, there's lots of people that will have the same names and they can be spelt the same, but no, it's not. Dad didn't write it. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's quite funny now. Sort of learning more about that and just the nature of these books, and you kind of like, holy shit, yeah, there's no way my dad would have written anything like that. He thinks this is a lot of hocus pocus, so there ain't no way. But yeah, it's really funny. So just a little funny story to throw in the middle of all of that. But now we're going to look at Japan's haunted forest, so the Sea of Trees. Now, forgive me, I'm probably going to pronounce this so wrong, and I do try, but I'm just going to call it Japan's haunted forest because I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this one. Deep within Japan's haunted forest, also known as the Suicide Forest, eerie silence blankets the landscape. The dense trees absorb sound, creating an unsettled atmosphere where visitors report hearing whispers, seeing shadowy figures, and feeling an overwhelmingly sense of dread. Some believe the spirits of those who perished here remain trapped, wandering endlessly through the trees. Others claim that the forest itself holds an ancient energy, one that draws people in and refuses to let them go. Whispers in the wind. Visitors report hearing soft murmurs and whispers despite being alone in the dense forest. A hiker's testimonial. I was walking alone along the trail when I heard someone whisper my name. I turned around expecting to see another hiker, but there was no one there. The whisper came again, closer this time. I ran, but the sound followed me and pursued. Shadowy figures among the trees. Some hikers claim to have seen the dark silhouettes moving in between the trees, vanishing when approached. A local guide said, I've led tours through the forest for years, but one evening I saw a figure standing between the trees. It was motionless, just watching. When I stepped closer, it disappeared, like it had never been there at all. These locations hold secrets that defy explanation. Are spirits truly trapped within these haunted places? Or is something else at play? Would you dare visit them? Or would you lock the door and never return? So there's a couple of the, some are quite well known, some are not, some of these haunted locations. So if any of those have piqued your interest and you'd like to deep dive into those in future episodes, leave a comment and let me know. And same goes for the rest of this episode. If there's any locations that we touch on that you're like, dude, I want to know more about that, please leave a comment, whether it's on Spotify or on YouTube. Let me know. You can send me a message on my social media on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, and let me know, because some of these are so fascinating that, yeah, if anybody has one in particular they want to touch on, let me know and we can arrange to do an episode on it, because, who doesn't love a good haunted location? So moving into segment 2 now, mysterious paranormal encounters and documented sightings. Beyond the legends, there are real encounters. Stories from those who have stepped into these haunted locations and experienced something that they can't explain. Let's explore some of the most chilling first-hand accounts from visitors and investigators. So let's jump into the famous ghost sightings and unexplained phenomena. Hampton Court Palace, once home to Henry VIII, is said to be haunted by the spirit of a woman known as the Grey Lady. She is believed to be the ghost of Sybil Penn, a servant who died of smallpox in 1562. Visitors have reported seeing her spectral figure gliding through the halls, and in 2003, security cameras captured a mysterious apparition opening a locked door, despite no one actually being there. Another one that's really cool is the woman in white at the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana. The Myrtles Plantation is infamous for its ghostly residents particularly the woman in white. Some believe she is the spirit of Chloe, a former enslaved woman who was allegedly poisoned and now roams the grounds. Guests have reported seeing her reflection in mirrors, standing in doorways, and even appearing in photographs taken of the property. Now, what's interesting about this one, the Myrtles Plantation, one of my friends, I mentioned her in my recent episode, Star. She has the Creepy Shit podcast, and if you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. Her first episode is actually the Myrtles Plantation, and she goes way in depth with it, and it's such a great episode. It gave me chills, and I was so excited when I could just add a snippet of it into this one because it is a really cool story. A little bit sickening with certain spots, so if you've got a bit of an unsettled stomach from time to time, maybe listen with caution, but definitely look at Creepy Shit podcast for the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana. Such a fantastic episode, and it was really just. It's one of those locations that I didn't really know about, and then when I heard Creepy Shit podcast episode on it, I was just like, holy fucking shit, this is insane. So yeah, if you haven't heard of that one before, definitely head over to Creepy Shit podcast and have a listen to the episode on the Myrtles Plantation. So yeah, just wanted to throw that one out there. The Phantom Children of the Queen Mary ship in California, USA. The Queen Mary, a retired ocean liner, is said to be one of the most haunted ships in the world. One of its most chilling legends involves the ghostly laughter of children heard near the abandoned swimming pool. Some visitors claim to have seen small, wet footprints leading away from the pool, despite no children being present. Again, this one, there's been a lot of investigation teams that I've seen that have gone and explored the Queen Mary, and oh man, that is phenomenal. I think one of the shows that I really enjoyed watching was Jack Osborne's Night of Terror, and he and his sister Kelly and medium Cindy Kaiser had actually gone on board, and I think they did like a 2-night investigation or 2-day investigation on there, and oh my God, like some of the things that happened and some of the evidence that was captured and just some of the stories about, the history of the ship itself is just so fascinating. What I understand was that the Queen Mary at one point was a mail ship. So, it was responsible for carrying the mail. And then I think in one of the wars, I can't actually remember which one it is now, but I believe in the bow part of the ship and on the very lower decks, I believe they carried prisoners of war, something like that. So, definitely a fascinating story, the Queen Mary. So, another one I highly recommend. Definitely looking into in different investigation shows or documentaries, or I don't know if it's out on any podcasts. I haven't heard anything about it as yet. So again, if it's one that you want me to delve into, then I'm sure I can. Obviously, being an Aussie, I don't know the full extent of things in like other countries' history and things like that, but I certainly try. So, fascinating some of these locations, and some of them, just ones that you wouldn't expect to be haunted. So, yeah, pretty fun. Now moving into haunted historical sites and some of the dark legends. So this one's quite fascinating. Again, there's a couple in there that I'm probably going to butcher the names of. So, I will attempt to pronounce them, but I'm sorry if they're pronounced wrong. History leaves behind more than artifacts and monuments. It leaves echoes. And some places hold whispers of the past that refuse to fade. We're going to step into the shadows of some of the historical sites that aren't just remnants of a time, but doorways to the unexplained. I believe it's Hoya Baciu or Hoya Baciu Forest. I'm sorry, but basically it's known as Romania's form of the Bermuda Triangle. So this particular forest is located near Cluj-Napoca and has been associated with paranormal phenomena for decades. The forest's name comes from a shepherd who mysteriously vanished along with his flock over a century ago, never to be seen again. Archaeological discoveries suggest that human settlements in the area date back 8,000 years, making it one of Romania's oldest inhabited regions. A circular clearing within the forest where no vegetation grows is baffling scientists. Some believe it's linked to UFO sightings that have been reported since the mid-20th century. Some of the overview of the phenomena that is found here: glowing orbs, hovering lights that have been reported in the clearing, appearing and disappearing without explanation, disembodied voices. Visitors claim to hear whispers of laughter despite being alone. Sudden disappearances. Some hikers have actually gone missing, only to reappear hours later with no memory of what actually happened. So that's pretty freaking creepy. But I guess it makes sense if they're going to call it Romania's version of the Bermuda Triangle. Like, some strange shit goes on in some of these places, even like the Alaska Triangle, Bermuda Triangle, and now we've found one about Romania's form of that. Like, ugh, dude, what the fuck is going on? What's with these triangles? Why is it always triangles? Creepy. There'll probably be an explanation for that I'm yet to dig into. So again, that might be a topic that we explore at some point as well. We're going to look at Leap Castle, and this is Ireland's Bloody Chapel. The historical background: Leap Castle was built in the 13th century and is considered one of Ireland's most haunted locations. It was home to the ruthless O'Carroll clan, known for their violent feuds and their betrayals. The murder in the chapel. One of the most infamous events had occurred when an O'Carroll brother murdered his own sibling, a priest, mid-sermon. His ghost is said to haunt the chapel, whispering prayers in Latin. Something doesn't sound right about that, and I just got goosebumps as I was reading that. But I remember, I've seen, for some of these locations, I remember seeing like investigation teams, and it may have even been Most Haunted in the UK. And that was, I actually really enjoy Most Haunted. They've got some great stuff, and they're all full of such personality as well, which makes it really fun to watch. But yeah, I remember watching something about this, and I feel like it could have been Most Haunted that did an episode on it. And yeah, fuck, that was creepy. And like, you know, hearing that like this priest was murdered and is now said to be whispering prayers in Latin, there's something that seems really off. And if we think to different spiritual things, you know, Latin seems to be associated with conjuring of predominantly non-human entities. It's not to say that Latin is necessarily responsible for it, but I think that's where there's a stronger response for inhuman energy. So it's kind of interesting that that's a report of the phenomena that occurs there. Part of me also is starting to wonder if maybe with that horrendous murder taking place of a priest by his own brother, is it possible that this brother was actually influenced by something inhuman? And maybe that's why we hear and see that it's an apparition of the priest, but it's reciting things in Latin. Is it possible that it's actually the inhuman entity taking form of the priest that passed to mock the Trinity or to mock religion or something like that? And, you know, I don't know, that was just something that literally popped into my head just now, where, you know, we see things like this a lot, but I don't know, it's just weird that it kind of came to me now. Like maybe there's a little bit more to this than just a surface level kind of deep dive, if you will. So I definitely think this is one that I'd love to jump into a little bit more. But to keep moving on with it, there is the Dungeon of Death. And it's a hidden dungeon within the castle that was discovered filled with human remains. Victims were allegedly thrown down into the pit and left to die. Again, I would have to look a bit more into the history of the times of when this was potentially something that took place, but it certainly seems connected to potentially why a man would kill his own brother who's a priest. But moving through to a little bit more of the overview of this phenomena, the elemental spirit. So this is a terrifying entity known as the elemental, and it's said to lurk within the castle. Witnesses describe it as a dark, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. Whispered prayers. Visitors report hearing murmured Latin prayers in the chapel despite no one being present. And there's also sudden temperature drops, so rooms in the castle become freezing cold without explanation. So I think I've just nominated myself a new location that I'm so keen to go and look into more, because I know a little bit about this story, but again, it's probably been, 5 years, maybe more, since I'd watched Most Haunted that had covered this episode. So, I think I've just found another place to go exploring. I'll just try and fit that in with all my other 5 billion things that I've got going on at the moment. It's fine. That's just what I do. I'm a bit weird like that sometimes. So, if you're interested in hearing more about that, I'm so keen to jump into that. Particularly Irish and Celtic history is something I connect with. There's a lot of different cultures that I feel that I connect with in some way. And yeah, the Celtics is one of them. And my mum was telling me that we thought we had a certain amount of European heritage, and then suddenly it was like, oh yeah, there's Irish in there as well. And I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, Australia was basically filled with convicts from Europe, and a lot of them did come from Ireland and Scottish and obviously English heritage. Interesting with the Irish, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't surprise me. Maybe there's just part of me that's like, no, maybe there's something in my heritage going, you need to look into this a bit more because there's a reason you are the way you are, and maybe it's because of this. Who knows? But yeah, I think I'm some of these locations, I'm just kind of like, wow, there's so many of them. And I know we're only just literally scratching the surface on them. But again, as I said at the sort of around the start of the podcast for this episode, if there's any that you hear that you're like, dude, I want to know more, please let me know, because there's so many that we could delve into. So if there's any that really pique your interest, let me know, and we'll look at deep diving into them at a later point. Poveglia Island, which is Italy's forbidden land. So some of the historical background on this is that it is off the coast of Venice. Poveglia Island has a dark past, earning its reputation as one of the most haunted places in Italy. The plague quarantine site. In the 18th century, the island was used to isolate plague victims. Thousands of bodies were burned and buried here, leading to rumours that the soil is mixed with human ash. The asylum horror. In the early 20th century, a psychiatric hospital was built on this island. Patients reported seeing ghosts, but their claims were dismissed as delusions. Interesting that we're talking about an asylum here, because again, this is a topic that I will be looking into later on, but it's interesting that we've had a location pop up where it's kind of touching on part of that topic that is something that is a very strong interest to me. But yeah, interesting that they're being dismissed as delusions. The hospital's director allegedly conducted cruel experiments before mysteriously falling to his death from the bell tower. The overview of the paranormal phenomena. There are ghostly screams. Fishermen passing by the island claim to hear blood-curdling screams echoing from the abandoned buildings. Shadowy figures and apparitions have been seen wandering the ruins, disappearing when unapproached. And unexplained voices. Visitors report hearing whispers in Italian, despite the island being deserted. Ooh, interesting. And this is one that I'd never actually heard of until putting the episode together. Some of these are really cool. The Paris catacombs, France's underground tomb. The historical background. Beneath the streets of Paris lies a labyrinth of tunnels, holding the remains of over 6 million people. Originally limestone quarries, they were transformed into mass graves in the late 18th century. Due to overcrowded cemeteries, bodies were exhumed and placed in the catacombs, creating eerie walls of human bones. Some of the areas of the catacombs remained undiscovered, leading to speculation about hidden tunnels and lost relics. Some of the overview of the paranormal phenomena that occurs here is the vanishing explorer. In the 1990s, a man ventured into the catacombs alone. His camera was later found, showing footage of him running in terror. He was never seen again. Ghostly figures. Visitors report seeing shadowy apparitions among the bones, hearing whispers and feeling sudden temperature drops. Many explorers claim to hear footsteps following them, only to find themselves completely alone. Wow. Holy cow, man. They sound really creepy. And again, some of these I hadn't really heard much about until looking into them briefly to put into the episode. So I think some of these, I think we're going to be touching on a lot of haunted locations, further down the line, because there's a lot here that I'm so keen on just doing a massive deep dive into. That one in particular, the catacombs, that I remember hearing something similar about that, and it could have even been that particular location, but there's something about these underground tunnels, and how far back they date and what kind of things occurred. And a lot of these things seem to correlate with like mass disease and things like that as well. So it'd be really interesting to deep dive more into some of these. History leaves traces, but sometimes places seem to hold something more. A presence that lingers beyond time. Again, would you dare to step into these forgotten chambers? Or would you lock the door behind you and again, never return? So now we're going to move into the next segment, which is the science behind the paranormal. For centuries, paranormal experiences have defied explanation. Apparitions, poltergeists, and eerie sensations that seem to transcend logic. But what if science holds the key to understanding these mysteries? We're going to dive into the theories that attempt to explain the paranormal through psychology, environmental factors, and even quantum mechanics. So, some of the psychological explanations and how our minds can create, in air quotes, ghosts. Could some paranormal experiences be the result of how our brains process information? Psychologists suggest that certain phenomena, so shadow figures, ghostly whispers, and even poltergeist activity, might stem from cognitive biases and neurological effects. Pareidolia is the brain's tendency to recognize familiar patterns, like seeing faces in clouds or figures in shadows. This could explain why people report seeing ghostly apparitions in dimly lit environments. Possibly, but I don't think that it's the only explanation here. Another one that's very common is sleep paralysis, the nightmare that feels real. Have you ever woken up unable to move, feeling a presence in the room? Sleep paralysis occurs when the brain is caught between sleep stages, leading to terrifying hallucinations of shadowy figures and ghostly entities. What's interesting about this is, personally, I've never experienced it, but when my husband and I first started living together, it was really funny because he would, like, for months, like, he would always talk about, his experience with sleep paralysis, and really interesting. And just to throw in like a slight spookiness to it. So I had a necklace and like a bracelet string beaded thing. And they were like a set, and it had the chakra beads on each. And I remember him telling me a story about an experience he'd had as a teenager. And he had, as teenagers do, we think we know everything, and we clearly don't. They had decided to play with a Ouija board and had no idea what was going to happen. And essentially what had happened was this entity that was communicating with them had talked about where they would be able to find it, what it looked like. There was some descriptions there. Anyway, they kind of thought, oh, what a fucking load of bullshit. And they left wherever they were. Anyway, they got to this particular point, and this particular point, they were able to kind of like look down a hill, and there was like a street light there. And sure as shit, this entity was standing underneath the street light, as it said it would, described the way it would. And at that point, I think they realized that they'd fucked up and went the long way home, I think. And it was interesting because my husband had said to me, ever since then, I don't know, there's just weird shit that sometimes happens, and it's more in the form of, like, I don't know if you want to call it like bad luck, but it was more in that, something good could happen, like could be occurring, and then suddenly like all hell breaks loose and it's just gone. So it's almost like he felt like there was an influence trying to infiltrate him. And so when we'd obviously started living together, and he's a roof tiler, so he will put roofs on houses, so they're not known to have very good backs. And so I used to like massage his back and stuff, and he'd told me about, it was not long after he'd actually told me about this experience, and I had my chakra bracelet and my chakra necklace. So I tended to wear the necklace more. And I said to him, oh, he goes, oh, my back's really sore, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, yeah, well, maybe do you want me to give it a massage or something? And he's like, yeah, that'd be good. And I said, oh, before you do you want to just chuck this bracelet on? And he goes, why? And I said, oh, it'll just help balance you out a little bit. Maybe your energy's a bit off, or you're a bit stressed or whatever. I didn't actually disclose what my thoughts were. And so he wore that bracelet, and so as I was massaging his back, it was almost like, I don't know how, I didn't even know I could actually do this, and I still can't quite comprehend how this happened. But basically, as massaging his back, it was like I was basically telling this entity, you're no longer allowed to be attached, you're not allowed to enter this home, like basically told it that it's not welcome and it needs to fuck off back to where it came from. And I just said to him, after the massage, he goes, oh, he's like, fuck, my back feels good. And I'm like, well, that's good. It obviously worked. And he's like, oh, yeah. And he'd not even realized he'd gone to work the next day and he still had the bracelet on. And he said to me the next night, and he's like, oh, I just feel really different today. Like, I don't know, I feel lighter. I feel like I can move. I feel like I can breathe, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, maybe I must have got like the right spot with your muscles and stuff. Because at that point I was kind of like, he's going to think I'm a nut job if I tell him that I know, after he told me that story, I knew exactly what was going on. Anyway, so I was like, oh, yeah. And he goes, oh, yeah, that bracelet's kind of comfy. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, if you want to keep wearing it, keep wearing it. I don't care. And he goes, oh, yeah, well, I'll take it off when I get in the shower. Anyway, he'd taken it off and he'd had a shower, and then he'd forgotten to put it back on. And then he said the next couple of days where he wasn't wearing it, he just was like, I felt really like heavy and really drained, and it was really interesting. So, yeah, I kind of just said, oh, maybe you just need to keep that bracelet on for a bit. Maybe you just, your energy's still just a bit funky or whatever. Maybe it's just trying to sort itself out. But one thing that was really interesting was that on the nights that he remembered to wear that bracelet, he never experienced the sleep paralysis. On the nights where he didn't wear it, sleep paralysis. And he did talk about the fact that there was something present, when experiencing that. So, yeah, just an interesting, spooky story. There's more that I can go into with that. So maybe that's something that I share in a different episode, because we could go on for ages about it. But yeah, interesting sort of fun fact with the sleep paralysis is I can see, scientifically where there's an, again, air quotes, explanation. But as somebody who's very connected and has had experiences with people that have had it, and just different things that occur that are kind of like, yeah, I think it's a little bit more than just the westernized scientific brain trying to tell us this. I think there's more to it. I think it could be a combination of both. But yeah, fascinating little story there just to throw in under the sleep paralysis. The power of suggestion, haunted expectations. Studies show that people are more likely to experience paranormal activity if they expect it. If you enter a, in air quotes again, haunted house, believing you'll see a ghost, your brain may amplify normal sounds and shadows into something supernatural. Interesting. I sort of get where they're going with that, and I think despite my ability, I've had lots of experiences too. I still keep a skeptic mindset on things like this. So I get where they're going with the power of suggestion on expectations. If, and we do see it, I suppose, too, when this is, again, it's another kind of rabbit hole that I'm going down, but we can see entities that are actually formed in a location based on that, on the expectation. If, for example, it's a haunted location that runs, let's just say, tours, right? So the more and more people that come through in those tours and kind of go, oh my God, there's blah, 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 and they get all hyped up, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but you have that repeated thing happening like again and again and again. What can actually happen is that energy that people exert in the sense of, oh, well, there's a woman named Carol who blah, 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 whatever it is, at some point there's going to be an entity that develops from that, and it's manifested through this energy that's channeled into the location. And then what's going to happen is that this entity is going to be like, well, I'm Carol. And people are like, oh my God, see, I told you. And it continually feeds this energy that can form. So on some levels, yes, that can be that you're going in with the expectation. So you're like, oh my God, something's going to happen. But we can also see it on the other side where it's kind of like, well, you can go in with that, but at some point, multiple people manifesting that same thing can actually create something from nothing. So that one's interesting. I think I can see both sides of that, and I think it could actually be a combination of both. But then how the fuck do you explain me? Because there are weird things that'll happen that I'm kind of like, even though I can be very skeptical, things will happen and I'll be like, am I imagining that? And then, I could ignore that for, I don't know, a week. And then suddenly something will pop up and it will actually be like, I don't know, it could be on social media or it could be in a book, whatever. And I'll come across it and I'll be like, holy fuck. Okay, no, I wasn't imagining that. There's something to this. But then again, the skeptic could turn around and say, yeah, but you were thinking about that. And now suddenly that's there. It's like when you go, oh, I saw a black Toyota Kluger today. And then suddenly you see them everywhere. So it might not necessarily be that it is spiritual or any kind of paranormal activity. But then again, it's not to say that it's a coincidence either. So yeah, that one's an interesting one. I'm kind of on the fence with that because there are certain things where I'm kind of like, there's no logic for this. There's no human scientific anything that could prove what this is, despite everybody's efforts to have some kind of something that can go, yeah, well, it's this or well, it's that. Sometimes things happen and there is no reasonable explanation. And sometimes I think we've got to stop trying to debunk everything all the time. I think there are certain things that occur that, maybe we're not meant to know all the answers. Maybe we're meant to, I don't know, debunk what is debunkable, but also appreciate the things that defy explanation. So I sort of get, yeah, and it's hard because I work in a sector that is to do with mental health and brain activity and all that sort of stuff. So it's hard because it's like, dude, I can understand the scientific explanation, but on the other hand, I understand the spiritual side of that. So what the fuck? So I kind of feel like I'm a bit of a fence sitter sometimes because I can see both things there. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? Like haunted expectations. Like, are you somebody that's completely skeptical on it? Are you somebody that is sort of like me, where you can be like, dude, I see both sides, or you're completely one way of like, no, it's this or it's that. It's there's no in between. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that one, because interesting with the haunted expectations. We're moving into the environmental factors, so the science of haunted spaces. Could haunted locations be influenced by environmental conditions? Some researchers suggest that natural phenomena such as electromagnetic fields, infrasound, and air pressure changes may trigger eerie sensations. Again, it's like the haunted expectations thing. I can see both things. Sometimes I really hate being somebody that goes down the rabbit hole, because then you see every possible scenario and then you sit there and go, well, fuck, now I feel dumber for having researched this because I can see both sides. I can see, we've talked so much about electromagnetic fields in the ley lines 3-part episodes as well. That clearly is like a natural phenomenon, but again, is that natural phenomenon influencing us as humans because of something? Or I don't know. It's a tough one. The infrasound and the air pressure changes combined with that, again, they're natural things that occur on Earth. Maybe there's natural things that occur that are also supernatural at the same time, because, like science will want to say, well, this is natural and that's supernatural or paranormal. That's like not defined as normal in the human realm. So maybe everything we experience in terms of that is a natural occurring phenomena on Earth that, and I suppose if we think about it like animals, right? So we talked about this in the last episode of Ley Lines, where there's certain birds, pigeons, and now I can't remember the other one. There's certain birds that have like the crystal things in their brain that like tell them energetically where they've got to go to for migration, and the same with whales or marine life that migrate. So it's a natural phenomenon, but maybe we're trying to explain it away as something else because we can't explain it. I don't know. Interesting. High electromagnetic fields can affect brain activity, which we did talk a little bit about in part 3 of Ley Lines, leading to feelings of unease, paranoia, and even hallucinations. Some haunted locations have been found to have unusually strong EMF readings. We talked a little bit about this in the Ley Lines one, where it's sort of like, well, is there a reason why there's certain things that occur on potential ley lines because of the electromagnetic fields, and can it affect brain activity and things like that? But in saying that, if we think about it in terms of maybe in a mental health perspective, because that's kind of how I understand it, but if you think about somebody that may have, in terms of like scientific viewpoints, they might have a mental health condition and they could be in one location, for example, and experience things with their condition and electromagnetic fields. But what happens if they are transferred to somewhere else that doesn't have any kind of reading of electromagnetic energy in any way, shape, or form the same as where they were experiencing this, and they still experience it? So is it just the electromagnetic field, or is there more to it than that? It's saying that it can affect brain activity. So does it affect brain activity for the time and the purpose that you're in that location, or is it something that leaves like a residual change in the brain activity? Again, it's hard because I'm like, I see both sides. The infrasound, so the frequency of fear, we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but infrasound refers to low frequency sound waves that humans can't consciously hear but can feel. These vibrations can create sensations of dread, dizziness, and even visual distortions, potentially explaining ghost sightings. So again, I suppose that might come down to like myself, where I've got this ability where I'm like, I'll see things or I'll envision things or something like that. And it's like, the naked ear is not hearing it, but the internal cognitive function is hearing it, is seeing it, is that actually infrasound, or is it the connection to the higher realm? But just saying that literally popped into my head as I was saying that. What if it's both? What if it's both? What if the infrasound, which as scientists will go, it's this. Well, they're probably not technically incorrect, but what if that particular phenomena is what is used to connect? What if it's both? What if it's not one or the other? What if these things are actually both? What if these things are phenomena that science is trying to say it's just that? It might be just that, but what if that's the method or the tool that you use to then experience things that are actually genuinely there? What if that particular infrasound or EMF is the pathway? What if that's the pathway to being able to experience that, rather than it being that it's this or that? What if it's both? What if, oh fuck, now I'm going to be thinking about this for the next, oh my God. Okay, interesting that we've kind of touched on that, because you do have those physical experiences like the dizziness and all that sort of stuff, but what if you're experiencing that because it's the pathway into the next part of that experience? Carbon monoxide poisoning, a hidden cause of hauntings. Historically, some haunted houses were later found to have carbon monoxide leaks. Exposure to this gas can cause hallucinations, auditory distortions, and a sense of being watched. Again, yes, we can't deny that carbon monoxide may or may not have been present in some locations, but what about the ones that didn't have those leaks and they're still having these same things? What if that's the carbon monoxide? I don't know. It just, oh yeah, this one's got me stumped a little bit. This one's got me spiraling a bit of oh fuck, what have I opened myself up to? And I really enjoy learning about it. The problem is I just keep going. And then weird. But again, it could be one of those things where it's yes, there could be locations that have had that happen, and that could be a reasonable explanation for some of these things. But what about the places that didn't have any reports of that actually happening, that still have the same phenomena occurring? So yeah, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Interesting. Quantum theories. Could ghosts exist in another dimension? I think that's very plausible. While psychology and environmental science offer rational, again in air quotes, explanations, some researchers propose that paranormal phenomena could be linked to quantum mechanics. Could ghosts exist in another dimension, or are they echoes of energy imprinted on reality? There's a lot of theories that would suggest that they're interdimensional. There's a lot of theories that suggest there's different realms within each dimension. So a realm could be a layer. So if you think about it like a wedding cake, the whole wedding cake is one dimension, but the wedding cake has multiple layers. So what if we're in one layer and spirits technically reside in the layer above us or below us, and occasionally they cross over? I don't know how the fuck I just came up with that analogy on the spot. Go me. I must have been thinking about it that much that it it came out that way. But yeah, there's a lot of theories out there that could suggest dimensional things, or different layers of each dimension. I don't think that there's just here's a dimension and that's all it is, and here's a dimension and that's all it is. I feel like a dimension is far more complex than that. And maybe there's it's like the wedding cake. The wedding cake is the dimension, and then there's different layers of that that represent different spiritual realms within that dimension. And then you've got another, you know what I mean? And what's to say that these two dimensions don't cross over within multiple layers crossing over each other? Multiverse theory, so parallel realities overlapping. Some physicists suggest that multiple dimensions exist alongside our own. Could ghost sightings be a glimpse into parallel realities where the past events continue to play out? just talking about it like the wedding cake. Residual energy, imprint from the past, same sort of thing. Certain paranormal theories propose that intense emotional or traumatic events leave behind energy imprints, like a recording replaying over time. Could this explain why some hauntings seem to repeat the same actions? So yes, that would certainly work into the quantum theories. I've also heard of the stone tape theory, so it could also fit into that. There's so many theories that I think maybe that there's in some way, shape or form that each theory, again, it's like all the topics, they overlap, they intersect. I don't think it's like it's just one theory and here it is. I feel like there's multiple layers to it and things will cross over. Consciousness and quantum entanglement. So are we connected to the unknown? Quantum entanglement suggests that these particles can be linked across vast distances. Could human consciousness interact with unseen energies, creating paranormal experiences? I think it does. It suggests that there's multi-layers and multi-dimensions and multi-realms and all these different things that will influence different forms of hauntings or imprints on locations. It's interesting that we've kind of moved on to this topic like straight after the ley lines because there's a lot of crossover here. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? We've touched on quite a few haunted locations and some of the theories, I guess, and I've kind of brainstormed a few of my own thoughts in that. So we've explored eerie forests, haunted castles, and forgotten ruins, places where history refuses to rest. Some say these locations hold echoes of the past, while others believe that they are doorways to something beyond our understanding. I'm going to ask you now, would you dare to visit these places? Step into the shadows, walk the halls of the unknown, and face whatever lingers there? Or would you lock the door behind you and never return? The world is full of mysteries, but some of the most chilling ones lie closer than you think. On the Part 2 episode, Australia has its own haunted secrets and we're about to uncover them. As the old saying goes, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. The question is, are you ready to find out what happens next? Again, thanks for joining me on Part 1 of Haunted Locations in the Oh My God, Don't Go In There mini-series. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes the veil is thinner than you think.